It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
It is Friday, and we are here on the Sports Blitz. Looking forward to a good weekend, but we're not quite there yet. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today on the big show. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. We got NBA basketball to talk today. What's going on with the Pacers? What in the world is happening with that squad? And then also Razorback spring game. The red-white game is tomorrow. Kicks off at 1 o'clock. We've got a little NFL draft talk. There's just going to be a wide variety of sports talked today, Weldon.
It really is, Mark. You mentioned the spring game coming up, and it's a pretty big spring for Brett Bielema. I know it's only year two as far as spring, but a lot of people want to see certain things. You want to see improvement. Quarterback play, Brandon Allen's going to be on display. He's now healthy, which is something that, whether you want to admit it or not, he was not going down the stretch of last year. Then we'll see the defense. We've heard a lot of talk about this aggressive defense. Rob Smith has most of what he wants installed. I know he doesn't have it all in. Trey Flowers will not play. He's getting the star treatment. Let's just call it what it is. He'll be held out. So we'll see what this Arkansas football team looks like. So that's one thing I'm excited about.
I'm interested in today's CrossFit Russellville poll question as well. It deals with Brett Bielema. And apparently some folks have some really high expectations for Brett Bielema. And we asked today our CrossFit Russellville poll question, what does Brett Bielema have to do? What does he need to accomplish this year to make you feel better about Arkansas's future? I thought that it would be a little easier, just show some progress, those types of things. But we're getting some answers in that a little surprising, so we'll get to that here in a little bit. You can give us a call at 968-NEWS. It's 968-6397. Between now and noon, we will be here talking some sports. Wednesday, we talked to Coach Dean Norsworthy from the Russellville Junior High football program. He is the new head coach. He was the offensive coordinator for the Arkansas Tech Wonder Boys last year. A little philosophical difference between he and Coach Raymond Monica, and now he is. Think about what the Russellville Junior High athletes are getting. These student athletes, they're getting a college-level coach, a Division II college-level coach coming down to the junior high level to coach fundamentals. You can't ask for much more than that if you're a junior high player. So we talked to him on Wednesday, and we'll be talking in the very near future to Charlie Bowden. Came by the show the other day, and we weren't on, but he was wanting to talk a little bit about the dirt track racing out at Plummerville. So I'm assuming he'll be at some point in time showing up to talk with us about that. And then also, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Brightest Stars Banquet here in a little bit. But Weldon needed to make mention of a signing, a local signing from a student athlete here at Russellville. Mason Rhodes signed a cross-country scholarship with the University of Arkansas Fort Smith on Wednesday. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to go make sure real quick, but I'm pretty sure that Mason Rhodes is a finalist for the cross-country award at the Brightest Stars Banquet.
Yeah, you talk about the Brightest Stars Banquet, and one reason why we have it is because I didn't know a whole lot about Mason. I don't think a lot of other people did too. I didn't know UAFS even had cross country. We think about them with basketball, of course, men's and women's. But again, that's great exposure. Congratulations to him. And and that really just goes back to the theme of the Brightest Stars Banquet. We're going to honor football, basketball, basically all the different sports that we keep up with. But cross country and swimming, those sports that don't get as much recognition. I think you were the one who said someone came up to you and said, "Look, I submit my stats and my numbers to the newspaper, and they just flat out tell me they just can't put it in. They don't have enough room, enough space." So this banquet is designed to help honor those people.
That's exactly what it's for. And big congratulations, because he doesn't necessarily need our honor. He's got a UAFS scholarship. They're paying him some money to come run cross country, and more power to him. I don't know how in the world people run for fun, but he does it for money. He does it for funds. So he's getting to go to school and pay for that with some cross-country running. A huge, huge tip of the cap to Mason Rhodes, Russellville Cyclone cross-country runner. Looking forward to the Brightest Stars Banquet. We talked about it at length over the past month or so, and it's really coming down to the wire. We've got all the nominations in, all the ballots out, and we've got most of the ballots back already. So we'll decide in the next few weeks after we get them all back from everyone else who the finalists, who the winners are for each one of these awards. We're giving away 22 awards in total, 19 sports awards. Then we've got a Coach of the Year, an Assistant Coach of the Year, and an Assister of the Year. Those are Help Network awards that they're giving out, seeing as how they are folks who help and assist in people's time of need. So I'm looking forward to a fun event May 29th. You can go to rivervalleyleader.com and get your tickets there in the top right corner. If you're not technologically savvy, you don't have your information there available on the computer, we are going to have a solution to that issue by May 1st. Emily Young, our great graphic designer here at River Valley Leader, designed us some tickets, and we got some hard copies printed off. We're going to get 100 standard tickets that we will put at locations across the area so that you can go buy a ticket, like an actual hard copy ticket. And those of you who buy them on PayPal or buy them through rivervalleyleader.com will have your names written down. We're not going to make you have a hard copy or print it out, but we'll have your names down. You come tell us who you are, show us an ID, get into the banquet. $25 going to get you in, and you're going to have a lot of fun. Aaron Peters from Razorback Nation is going to be our MC. He's going to talk to us a little bit about how he has seen sports impact the local community. He's going to be, I'm sure he's going to be very entertaining. We're going to have some local quote-unquote celebrities who are going to be presenting these awards. We're going to, more importantly, honor more than 100 local student athletes who some of them have received honor all the way from 7th grade up because of how good they've been in their sport. And some of them, you may not know their names, you may not have ever seen them compete, but they deserve just the same type of praise for being able to excel in their sport, whether you like that sport or not, because a lot of these kids, like we've mentioned, Weldon, they've never really, and like you just mentioned a minute ago, they've never really had this kind of stage and this opportunity to be up there with the Michael Perrys of the world, who, he's been up there for 40 years as one of the best athletes in the area. Well, now you're going to get Mason Rhodes, who's going to be in the same room and get, have a chance to get the same award on the same night. It's going to be special.
And we could start sort of a tradition because, this is not just for seniors. This is something where, you'd say you have a sophomore or a junior who wins. Who knows? Maybe they can make it a 2-year run and be back up here again and, kind of get the tradition started that way. There are great players coming up through the ranks. We know there are wonderful underclassmen coming up. So you're going to see some seniors on their way out be honored in a great way. But there may be some faces you see this year in the first season of the Brightest Stars Banquet that you may see again and again, and you say, well, I may not have otherwise taken notice of this individual, but I saw him at the 2014 Brightest Stars Banquet. Here it is, 2015, 16, and so on, and I see him again. So I think that's another cool thing.
That would be cool. I can think of how this would have went 3-4 years ago. You would have had Michael Perry as a freshman competing for the football award, and Freddie Lee as a freshman. Or Dedrick Lee as a sophomore, or whatever it was. He was the best player in the area as a freshman. Yeah. I remember that Dedrick was. So that would have been fun. But yeah, that'd be cool if somebody would be a 2-time Brightest Stars Banquet Award winner. But we're going to have a great time. We're going to have a dinner that is going to be catered by Italian Gardens, and it's going to be worth your time, worth your effort. We want you to come out. We've heard from a lot of players, parents, and families of actual athletes who are nominated. And what we're doing, now I know this may sound a little bit unfair to some. The finalists are getting their tickets paid for. The reason we're doing that is because we've had over 100 athletes nominated. If we gave every one of them tickets, we couldn't sell any tickets. This thing would go under. It couldn't make any money, and next year we wouldn't be able to do it. We'd have to float the thing. So what we've done is we've given the finalists 4 tickets, basically. A ticket for themselves, ticket for 2 parents or 2 representatives, whoever it is, grandparents, aunt, uncle, whoever you're with, and then a ticket for your head coach. And those 4 will get to show up with every single finalist, those 4 tickets. And then all the other nominees, we want you to come. It's going to cost $25 a ticket, but we want the nominees to come because on the night of the event, I just decided the other day, Weldon, that each one of these nominees deserves something. They have been nominated by their coaches, and we gave them a little pat on the back at rivervalleyleader.com with the story about who they are, and it's just a name there. We're going to get, because, it is an extra expense, but it's worth it. We're getting a certificate printed off for each one who was nominated, and we're going to be able to hand that to them on the night. You just everyone who was nominated for an award stand up here. There's a certificate for them, showing everyone who they are, what they've accomplished, and just honoring them on that night. So we want you to be able to do that. If you can't come, I understand. We'll send the awards to each school, and they'll be able to get those to you. But we want everyone who can to show up. All the nominees can show up. The finalists, again, get their tickets paid for, the 3 finalists in each sport. Everyone else needs a ticket. It's $25 a pop, and there'll be limited room. There'll be quite a bit of room. We've got room for 600 folks, but about 200 of those tickets are already spoken for. So we've got to get real quickly rolling with who's going to show up and who's not. I hope that a couple weeks beforehand we're saying, all right, we're packed. But if that's not the issue, there'll be tickets available at the door. We want everyone to show up.
We really do, Mark. Want everybody to show up, and as you said, this is about an event that the only reason you're selling tickets is so you can continue to sustain it. Obviously, with DJs and speakers and MCs and all the facilities have to be able to do that, so to be able to cover the cost for that, and it'll just make the event better and better each year. You get more amenities. I think it's great that you made the decision to honor the nominees, because you look at like an Oscars or any type of awards. These famous people are noted for their nominations just as much as they are the winner. You hear like 10-time Oscar nominee, even though they may have only won it 2 or 3 times. So I think it's important to acknowledge those who have been nominated, and they'll treasure that too. Obviously, they all want to win, but they'll treasure that. They'll take that certificate, they'll hang it up, and they'll take care of it. So I think that's really a big deal. It's a nice gesture.
Yeah, I think so too. Of all the people in this sport and all the people in a 10-school area, I was thought well enough of by the coaches that they voted for me to be a finalist, and they got me in the top 3 players in that sport. I think that's going to be really cool. By the way, I've had a couple emails, couple calls. I'm not picking the winners. I'm not picking the nominees. I'm not picking the winners. These are coaches. I'm sending these out to the coaches. They're nominating players, and then the coaches, I'm sending the ballot back out. I already did, and they're sending it back in with their winners. So I'm not picking these folks. And just let you know that so you don't call and yell at me. It's on the coaches who are picking these things. We are joined now on the line by Mr. Jason. Jason, man, where you been?
Man, I've just been busy.
Hey, it's spring ball time.
I was going to call in real quick. I'm not going to have a lot of time, but I'm going to listen to what y'all say. I know y'all haven't brought up the NBA. Y'all been talking about the Brightest Stars Banquet, which I think is a great thing for the River Valley. I think it's great that y'all are doing this for them. I wish they had something like this, when I was in the school. But anyways, back to the NBA. I'm just going to ask y'all's opinion real quick. Which of the teams that's down 2-1, I'm talking about Indiana and OKC, which one of those teams has the best opportunity to come back and win their series?
You don't have the studio bug, do you? Because we were just talking about this during the pre-show prep.
I might have, you never know.
Oh, Lordy. Well, I think Indiana is really they're more talented. I don't understand what's going on with them and the Pacers right now, or in the Hawks right now. Memphis is really good. Oklahoma City's got their hands full. It's going to be a 7-game series at best for Oklahoma City. They've got a hope. Really, for Indiana, I don't know. I saw the 31-13 quarter that Indiana put up a game and a half ago, and I thought they flipped the switch. They're back. It's gonna. And then last night they got beat. So I'm gonna go grudgingly Indiana.
Really?
As far as winning that series, I don't know. I don't know which one.
It's hard to say, really. And Jason, it's a really good question. I'm going to look at the 2 favorites. I know it's easy to look at the opponent. Clearly, Memphis is a better team than Atlanta. But the favorite team who's down 2-1, I got to see something out of you two. And Indiana, to me, they are about one notch above dead right now as far as just how they look. I think Atlanta's a team that they bother them. Like, Indiana would be down 3-0 if they didn't have an uncharacteristic flurry in the third quarter of that game. I mean, Indiana hadn't scored like that before that point. They hadn't scored like that since that. Otherwise, we'd be talking about them down 3-0. Oklahoma City, Mark, you're right. They have a Memphis team on their hands. I think they're better offensively than they were last year. But I think Oklahoma City, they're a few tweaks away. I think Scott Brooks will watch some film. I think he'll do some things to get Kevin Durant better shots, get that small lineup in better effect. And in the end, I still think they have a good chance to overcome their deficit. I would favor Oklahoma City, even though they're playing a better Memphis team.
Well, and Memphis, it is a 2-1 series lead there for the Memphis Grizzlies. 2 overtime games that Oklahoma City's lost. So you've got a good point there. And Jason, I don't think that the Golden State Warriors are going to be able to overcome the Los Angeles Clippers. That's the other 2-1 series right there. Los Angeles just more talented overall without Andrew Bogut there for Golden State. Now that's a 7-game series in my opinion if Bogut's there, just because he helps them quite a bit there. But I don't know what your answer to this question is, Jason.
Man, I was going to say I think OKC over Memphis. I think they have the best chance of coming back. Indiana, I'm with Weldon. Indiana just I don't know what their problem is. They just I have no words for it. It just seems like they're a head case, And I think it was either before game 1 or game 2. Evans and Stevenson got into a little scuffle or something before the game. I mean, you can't do that if you're a team trying to go out to win a championship. You should be diving on the balls for your teammate instead of throwing a punch at them or something, But I just think, they're just a basket case. I don't have a clue what's wrong with Indiana because I thought at the beginning of the year they had the potential to win it all. I think they would have pushed the Heat. Me and Mark was talking about that before the season. That I thought Indiana and the Heat would be a great series once again, but they just fell apart, and I just can't see them getting past Atlanta.
Well,
okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we talked about this on Wednesday. I guess it's Monday. Indiana's got 2 issues working against them. One, they're struggling offensively. They can't find anybody. It seems like when you watch them, the only person who cares is Lance Stevenson, and he's just crazy. He's too crazy to know none of them like each other, because that's the second problem. They don't care for one another. And like you said, Jason, when you don't like each other, you're not diving on the loose ball for that guy. You're not going to go out of your way in a rotation to help that guy. You're not going to make the extra pass. It's just something, and you may not even really be able to tell most of the time, but you can easily tell with the Pacers. And I don't know if you heard Colin Cowherd this morning, Jason. He was talking about how he had some people who were talking to him about it, and he said there's going to be some stuff come out after the playoffs that, it's just these are issues that are deeper than things that you see on the court, but we don't know about any of that stuff. But it does look really bad for Indiana. I just see them as being the better team overall. Watching Atlanta play, you can tell they're a below 500 team. They're not very good.
Right.
They're playing a little outside their minds right now because Jeff Teague's playing really well, and Paul Millsap is playing really, really well. But overall, Indiana's just got more talent, and it's just there's really no excuse for this.
Well, and I'll say this, Jason. Look, when you're a team, every team talks about brotherhood and being one, looking out for one another and all this closeness. But it's really magnified when you're a team that doesn't have a lot of superstars. I think we agree Paul George has enough talent. His mentality isn't always that of a superstar, but we know the Pacers, for whatever success they can have, whatever is possibly out there for them, it has to be because they play as a 5-man team when they're on the floor. They don't have a LeBron James. They don't have a Dwayne Wade. They don't have superstars Kevin Durant. So you look at a team like the 04 Pistons, just teams that depend on playing for one another. When you're challenged to score the ball and you're not playing together, you're subject to lose to a below 500 team, and I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and you're talking about teams. I think Memphis is a great team, and just like San Antonio, it just seems like they'll do whatever they can to make their team, whatever they can do as a player to make their team better. Those 2 teams has really impressed me. And another team that that I didn't watch much throughout the season that I think is maybe one player away from being really good. That's Charlotte. I know they're not going to get past the Heat, but I think they're one good player away from being a really good team.
No, you're probably right. And Al Jefferson being healthy, that would have been a different series. They would have probably gotten at least one game from Miami. But you're right. Kemba Walker, he can't be the superstar on the team, but, man, he'd be a really good number 2.
He's a good number 2, and I got to give Steve Clifford some credit, too. Michael Jordan goes through coaches like Joan Rivers through plastic surgery, but I think he's got one where defensively. Remember, this is a Bobcat team that finished, in the top part of the league. They're one of the elite defensive teams statistically in the NBA. I mean, they don't do anything fancy. We talked during the NCAA tournament about Virginia's defense, how they like to pack the three-point line. Similar philosophy from Steve Clifford. I think that helps too. So, if they can get some of these guys to develop, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, you have a Cody Zeller, some of these youngsters can grow up in the coming years. Maybe Michael Jordan will have accidentally stumbled on something.
You got that right about accidentally. All right, Jason, you got anything else on the NBA?
No, man, that's it. That's all. I was just curious who y'all thought had the best chance of coming back from down 2-1.
Well, a lot of folks are wondering about Portland and Houston there. We'll talk a little more NBA after the break. All right, Jason, you got. I guess you can, if you want to call back and talk a little spring football here in a little bit. I know you're a big Razorback fan. Maybe we can talk to you after a while if you got time.
All right, I'll see what I can do.
All right, we'll take it easy, man.
I appreciate it.
All right, we got to hit our first break. When we come back, we're going to hit the wire. There's plenty of sports topics across the world that we've got to talk about before we get back to the NBA playoffs and eventually to Arkansas Razorback spring football.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Welcome back into the Sports Blitz today on a Friday. I'm Weldon Braxton. Mark Freeman over here to my right. The NFL schedule is out. Some of the marquee games that we will see this season. Mark, the first one that jumped out to me, when you look at the NFL schedule, September 7th, the Indianapolis Colts. You know where they're going. Take a guess.
Denver.
They're going to Denver to face the Denver Broncos. 8:30, September 7th, Colts at Broncos. Mark, I'm excited about this game. Why? Because I'm a Peyton Manning fan. And I'm not just a Peyton Manning fan. I'm a Peyton Manning fan with a degree of anger. Because, look, I get the Indianapolis Colts. I get that they made a decision to go with a young quarterback. They were very fortunate to have an elite young quarterback come out in the following draft. But I look at it from a Peyton Manning standpoint. I don't care about that. Bottom line is, you let me go. Okay, yeah, you had a little press conference, but for the most part, you let me go, and it was somewhat quiet. I came back last year. We had some turnovers and some issues. You got me when I came back. Good job, Andrew Luck. But you coming to Mile High this year, I expect Peyton Manning to put on a show.
I expect that Peyton Manning, he probably will try to put on a show in that. I think Peyton Manning, the degree of anger is going to come from the fact that they lost in the Super Bowl the way they did. And it's gotten me questioning these Denver Broncos. Did they do enough to shore up and make sure that kind of stuff doesn't happen again? They lost Eric Decker, but they gained a lot on the defensive side, especially. You've got DeMarcus Ware and Ward and Von Miller will be healthy. So, yeah, Aqib Talib. They've got a lot of help there on the defensive side to, I guess, balance out. The defense was pretty decent last year. You lost no Sean Moreno, but you expect that Monty Ball is going to be the guy there. I'm going to be interested to see how Peyton Manning and that team, he's one of those guys that he wants to win every week. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think I'm more interested to see how they do on the whole as far as the season goes than in just one game. But like you said, that is a big game for both teams.
It really is, Mark. I think both teams are going to be trying to compete for a Super Bowl. Luck want to get over the hump. Peyton's got some things to prove. We'll see if Monte Ball can hold up with pass protection. I want to see that. Then Sunday, September 21st, you have the Washington Redskins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Deshaun Jackson going back to Philly. Always an NFC East battle, but RG3, we know he's going to try to rebound from the tough year he had as a sophomore, his third year. Philadelphia and Washington, that NFC East, a lot of people still think it's open, but also that day. That's not even the biggest game
of that day.
Because you mentioned what happened to the Denver Broncos, and they are going to Seattle on September the 21st.
Golly.
And here's what we know, at least we think we know. It can't be any worse than the last time they played. At least that's what we believe. Seattle's a team who they're going to try to take the next step offensively. Defensively, they expect to still be the same. We understand Russell Wilson now is going through some personal issues, but I still expect for him to be fine. But that's going to be a good game. Then you have Carolina and Baltimore on the 28th. That's a notable game. Cam Newton taking on Joe Flacco. Was last year a fluke for Cam Newton, or are they for real against Joe Flacco and the Ravens? We know the Ravens are trying to retool and get themselves back in the playoff picture.
Cam Newton gets a good defensive performance like he did last year, and they can be very good again. Going to have a new receiving core, I guess. Steve Smith's gone, right?
Yeah, Steve Smith's gone. So
you're talking about one game mattering and being a big deal. The Denver-Indianapolis game, okay. The Denver-Seattle game. If you're going to talk about one game being an issue, Seattle, people are talking about, you can already chalk up 8 wins at home for Seattle because that's just what they do. If I'm Peyton Manning and I want to really prove something, I want to go to Seattle and beat them. So, that may be the game of the year as far as I'm concerned. Now, you've got both times San Francisco and Seattle matchup. That's going to be a battle.
Yeah, they're going to play on Thanksgiving too.
The Thanksgiving games.
Yeah, they've got some good ones on Thanksgiving. Yeah, then the rest of September you got Packers at Bears will be a good one. Jets and Patriots. So Revis playing against his old team. He played him last year too, but he should be healthy, and that's always a good rivalry. And then November the 2nd. The annual tradition, the game we always see. And Peyton was right about this too. It's Broncos and Patriots, and Peyton's like, we play Tom a lot. Seems like I go there a lot. I go there more than Tom comes here. It is true. I mean, last year was a playoff game. That wasn't even on the schedule. So, Brady had to go to Denver, but doesn't it always feel like Peyton has to go to Foxborough?
And then they'll pour water on the middle of the field and slow his team down and jam his receivers all night. Yeah. Is it at Foxborough this year?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it was at Foxborough last year. You remember the game where the Broncos had that huge lead, and then they just fumbled it away, literally and figuratively. Then the year before, Peyton's first year in Denver, it was in Foxborough. It was kind of a shootout, and they lost. So I don't see how Peyton always has to go to Brady. That may have something to do with their records against each other. We talked about Thanksgiving, Seattle, San Francisco. That'll be a good one. Dallas and Washington as well. So a lot of good games over the NFL season. They try to balance it out by rotating the divisions, Mark. But when you look at the NFL season, I know there's a lot to do, a lot to go. You feeling anybody? Is Seattle still the team you're feeling the most as far as the heavy favorites?
I freaking hate Seattle. I wish they'd lose every game. No, I'm obviously going to be rooting for Denver to beat them. Of course, they'd have to meet in the Super Bowl. I want San Francisco to beat them before they even get there. We'll see. Alden Smith may be there. He's not getting charged with a felony for calling in a bomb threatening at an airport. Why don't you? I don't recommend this, but what if one of us tried that? How would that work out? Not very well.
It might work out for you, since you're Mr.
You had a good. I want you to. I'm not gonna steal your line, but you had a good reason as to why he got away with this because he's gonna get charged with a misdemeanor.
Well, yeah, he went in front of the judge, and what did he do? He pled famous. And when you plead famous, you know what? It's like, you pull some strings, you're famous. It always seems like famous people can pull this off. Now, some go to jail. We understand that. It just makes me think, whoever Michael Vick's lawyer was, he must not have been too good. I mean, because you would have thought Michael Vick would have got a little less time than what he had. Seems like everybody else gets off for things. Look, OJ. I mean, I know Johnny Cochran's not around anymore, but he could have had somebody. But Alden Smith apparently got the right guy to say the right things, pled famous, and he has one less charge. But when you're Alden Smith, you still got a lot more charges to overcome. So we'll see what he's able to do. But speaking of the schedule, Mark, one thing I do like, and I have to look at it a little bit more, the NFL's having more flex games now. So we know towards the end of the year they'll flex some games, get the good games in those Sunday night spots. You're going to start doing that a little bit with a little bit earlier in the season, too, as far as being able to flex some good games in. Obviously, they have to let them know by a certain date, but I think that's good for us as fans.
You got anything else on the NFL? Because I got some breaking news if you don't.
I do not. What you got?
Well, we were going to talk about Herschel Walker. What could he be in the NFL at 52? I'll say dead.
Yeah, and I'm right with you. Look, this is what I don't get about people. Herschel wasn't good when he left. That's what I don't understand about these people that weren't good when they left. Herschel Walker was like stumbling for a yard going head down when he was in his 30s or, when he was still playing. I know he's in phenomenal shape when he whooped people in an MMA fight. This is a different deal. I'm with you.
All right, moving on. Breaking news across Twitter right now, okay? Two things. One, Kentucky is about to be loaded next year because Aaron and Andrew Harrison are coming back.
Uh-oh.
The two boys just couldn't separate. They know they wouldn't be on the same team. You're going to draft both of us, right? No, they figured out they can't play on the same team anymore, so they're going to come back. And then we mentioned before people going pro, and obviously the Harrison twins coming back it leads us directly into this. Mitch McGary, going to go pro for Michigan. Why? Because he failed a test for weed at the NCAA tournament. He was hurt. He wasn't playing, and they tested him anyway. He failed. And the NCAA, that sledgehammer-wielding NCAA, they brought the hammer down, and they said, you're going to be suspended for a year. I see LostLetterman.com showing some tweets about people at the NCAA. It says, Chris Burke from, I guess, Sports Illustrated said the first offense penalty for marijuana possession in Ann Arbor is $25, but okay, the NCAA. You're going to suspend him for an entire year for that. And then there was another one here. It says, assault a female, you can play tomorrow. Fail weed test once, done for the year. I'm kind of with them on that. He wasn't quite, I don't think, ready to go to the league, but now his hand was sort of forced because he made one stupid decision. And I'm not saying he only smoked the weed once. And as you were about to say here in a minute, I don't want to steal your. Weldon has all these good lines that he likes to tell me, and then I have to try not to steal them.
Go ahead and use
them.
So you go ahead.
He tells us about it's a Stephen A. thing, but. Mitch McGary, one bad decision is going to cost him another year in college where he would have had to sit.
Yeah, I can't take credit for it, but we have to get Stephen A. Stephen A's homesick now. If you watch on ESPN, he's homesick. But when he gets well, he needs to give Mitch McGary a call and say, Mitch, you got to stay off the weed. But here's the thing when you look at the use of marijuana, because you kind of touched on a point. I think we're within a couple of years of really having to sit down and make some hard decisions about this. And look, as long as it's legal in most states, we know the states have approved it, but it's one of those things that you have to stay away from it because it is illegal, but there's more and more research, there's more and more support. This is not me, don't shoot the messenger, but there's more and more things to suggest that the big story we make about it is not quite the issue. It's not, that's bad or all this and that. the reason I'm strict about it is because it's against the law, so you shouldn't be doing it. But I think a lot of people are taking notice of the medical benefits of it, taking notice of its effects versus alcohol's effects, which alcohol obviously is legal. And so I think this country and in sports, you're going to have to start making some decisions and looking at the use of marijuana, because I think something's coming to a head.
I don't want to go all philosophical and political on you, but like that tweet said, you've got folks who will beat on women, nothing. You got folks who will threaten bombs because they get pissed off at the airport, misdemeanor. But you fail one drug test when you're not playing, and you're out for a year. Like, really? The NCAA, honestly, I swear, I think they're spinning a wheel or like playing blind darts with punishment because they don't have a freaking clue what they're doing. And I'm not saying it was right, but what Mitch McGary did, but it's just kind of funny that they forced his hand, and now, congratulations, you just made one of your better players in the country go pro, when you could have sat him out for X amount of days, made him do X amount of things, X amount of games even, sit him out. Now he has to basically go pro.
Yeah, a year is harsh, and I don't think he was a repeat offender or anything.
No.
That's really extreme to me. But the other part about this, Mark, you mentioned the Harrison twins coming back. I think they're going to be a lot better. Look, I was hard on them, especially Andrew. They deserved, the criticism, but they're young. Not every 18-year-old is going to be, LeBron, where like you just look at him if LeBron had played college, or somebody who had played 1 year, you look and say, they need to get out of here. They're just wasting their time in college. They're just too good. Not every highly touted player is that way. Doesn't mean they can't be. Andrew Harrison may look, his coach John Calipari called him, a poor man's D. Will, 6'5", bigger point guard. Maybe in another year or two he can get to that point. I'm not saying he's not, but clearly he wasn't ready. And I think the NBA scouts gave him that feedback.
Yeah, and apparently they flip-flop back and forth a few times on whether or not they would come or go, stay or go. So let's hit a break real quickly. Joel Pineda lost 10 games, which is going to amount to about 2 starts for his pine tar incident. Is that the punishment fit the crime for you?
They need to clean up that rule. They need to make it legal to a degree, because that's annoying. That's baseball. That's a baseball kind of rule.
You got to do it because the idiot came out with pine tar on his neck. Put it on your glove. I don't know if you can put it on your glove or what you'd have to do, but do it some other way to get a grip. I don't like the people who will goop so much of something on the baseball that it moves unnaturally. You can't hit it. But those pitchers have got to do something. When everybody else is juicing, you might as well get some advantages where you can.
Well, yeah, you're right about it. They had to, under the current rule, they had to handle it their way. I'm just looking at overall big picture, because the teams don't mind it. The offender doesn't matter. The people being offended, they don't mind. It's just a baseball thing, and so baseball needs to just say, look, it's no longer cheating. We know no team really cares about it as long as it's not excessive. So have at it. But this rule is kind of silly at this point.
It's kind of crazy. So 2 starts for him, and then let's see if there's anything else. I think we've covered the wire. Oh, the Northwestern players. We talked about that before and how they were going to vote to form a union. They cast their vote this morning. It's a secret ballot. We'll know whether or not they decided to form a union or not. The NCAA bringing out some concessions, though. Oh, yeah, you can feed them whatever you want now. We're going to make ways for the scholarships to accommodate all the athletes and all the cost of attendance of each one of these universities. It's going to be interesting to see what the Vanderbilts and the Stanfords and the Notre Dames of the world have to do. Well, Notre Dame's not going to have an issue with it, but Vanderbilts of the world, where it's an expensive education and they have to pay all that more. And what happens to like baseball players? Most of them don't get like third scholarships. You get a half a scholarship or a third of a scholarship in baseball because they've only got so many. What happens there in those? Because do they? I don't know. We'll see how that all turns out. But the NCAA is kind of on their heels, and Northwestern kids are casting votes.
They are, and again, I'm not even sure the unionization part is what's going to really take hold, because that's a huge seismic change. But I do think you're starting to see these rumblings cause the NCAA to do some things. I think the Power 65 conferences are getting the autonomy that I've wanted to see them have to be able to do certain things, and that may affect the scholarships. You mentioned with baseball, they may have the autonomy to do more things with baseball scholarships. I don't know, but I think that would open the door for such thing. Did you see Shabazz Raz Napier's Twitter picture, his profile pic. It's him, and I think it's the Dolson girl who's on the basketball team. They're walking out of the team facility with like a bag of chips, like just a handful of chips and stuff, and they're smiling at the camera.
Just rubbing it in the face of the NCAA, which I don't necessarily hate, but I do. I don't know. I'll just keep my opinion to myself. Today's CrossFit Russellville poll question, we'll get to it right after the break. What does Brett Bielema need to accomplish, record or progress-wise, this season to make you feel better about Arkansas's future? Give us a call at 968-NEWS. That's 968-6397 if you'd like to talk about it.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
All right, we're back on the Sports Blitz. This is going to be, in effect, our last segment because we were kind of up against the break there, so we just ran the double there and paid off all the bills for the rest of this show. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. We'll get to Razorback spring football talk in today's CrossFit Russellville poll question. What does Brett Bielema need to accomplish this season to make you feel better about Arkansas's future? Here in just a minute. But before we do, we need to catch you up on the NBA playoffs for those of you that have not been paying close enough attention. We talked a little bit about the Indiana Pacers and how big a mess that they are right now against the Atlanta Hawks, down 2-1. Last night, the Memphis Grizzlies in overtime, they were up 15 points, and actually 17 points.
Yeah.
Oklahoma City went on a 17-0 run to tie the game. They go into overtime. Somehow Memphis grinds it out in the grindhouse, and they win. They're up 2-1. Then the Clippers beat Golden State last night, and they're up 2-1 as well. Tonight, you've got Brooklyn, Toronto, Washington, Chicago, and Portland, Houston. Brooklyn, Toronto, 1-1. Washington leads Chicago 2-0. Portland leads Houston 2-0. I guess I will go I want Toronto to win. I'm going to pick them. I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I want Toronto to win every single game in this series. I wish it was a 4-game series. I wish they could win tonight and take the win away from Brooklyn because I hate Brooklyn. I cannot stand Paul Pierce. I just hate looking at him.
The truth.
So I hope Toronto wins in that game. Do I expect them to win? But I am going to go with Toronto to win that game. Washington, Chicago, I couldn't have been more wrong on this series because I talked about how Chicago would still find a way to grind out Washington and beat them. I'm going to be very surprised now if they are able to win more than a game against the Washington Wizards because they cannot find a way to put the ball in the basket. And then Portland, Houston, I expect them to win a couple games in this series, but this one is in Portland. So I would be very surprised if Portland didn't come out and play well tonight.
Yeah, and that Houston-Portland series is interesting because obviously we know if Portland wins, the series over. That makes it 3-0. We know what history tells us from that standpoint. But Houston's down 2-0 going on the road, but I don't feel like they're done yet. And maybe that's more to do with I'm not sold on Portland just as a playoff team. Can they handle success? You're going back home now. Everybody's patting you on the back. Can you take care of business? Can you step on Houston's throat in Game 3? Because if Houston makes it 2-1, you leave the door open. All they have to do is tie you, and then it's a series again. You can effectively finish them tonight. I want to see if the Blazers have that killer instinct. And, you mentioned Raptors and Nets. I think this will be a good one. I'll give Brooklyn a slight edge tonight, but I still think Toronto's got a great chance of winning this series because of some of the things they do with their length and athleticism and what they can do as far as bothering Brooklyn. But I think that's going to be a good series. It could go 7 games. I'm with you on the Chicago and Washington. Look, Tom Thibodeau's done a good job, but he doesn't have any players. Like I said last time, he had Nate Robinson to replace D Rose last year. He doesn't have Nate. Nate could at least score. He wasn't going to do much else, but he could jack it up and score. You don't have anybody. DJ's a nice player. Kirk Heinrich's been a nice player in this league for over a decade, but that's just what they are. They're nice players. Luol Deng, you trade him to Cleveland. So who's going to score for you if you're Chicago? I don't think Washington. Everybody's jumping on Washington. I'm not as sold on them. They have some nice pieces. I like the backcourt. They're young, but in the end, I still think a team of somewhat quality will beat them. If Indiana survives Atlanta, which I'm not sure they will, everybody's going to pick Washington. I still don't know if I would. I still may pick Indiana if they were to get it together. I'm just not sold on the Wizards, but I think they will beat the Chicago Bulls. Oklahoma City and Memphis, so we were talking about coaching situations. How much heat is on Scott Brooks if he can't pull out this first-round series? I'll ask you that.
It's going to be tough because the way this team is currently constructed, it's just not going to fly. It's not going to work. We talked about it before. Unless Russell Westbrook, somebody can get through to him and say, look, I know you're a freak. And watching him play, man, he is so fast and so strong and so electric. But he shoots the ball so much. It's not even funny. And, somebody made the point this morning I was listening to on the way here. Kevin Durant, there were some shots at the end of the game that he knew they were bad shots. Everybody in the gym knew they were bad shots, but he was afraid if he passed it, he wouldn't get it back. And Russell Westbrook, man, it just seemed like every time he got it, he was going down and shooting the ball. And it was just like, man, give the ball up every once in a while. And Kevin Durant, he's pretty good. Now, he was 0 for 8 from 3 last night. I think Russell Westbrook can knock him out of rhythm faster than you can shake a stick. I mean, he's just not... I don't know. They're not fitting together all that well. That being said, 2 overtime games in a 2-1 series. Oklahoma City, you got to give Scott Brooks some blame for this because he's got a squad. Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Serge Ibaka. And he's even got Kendrick Perkins on that team. So, I mean... Yeah. If he's able to win with that guy on his team, he's got some serious skills. But last night, Kevin Durant shot it 27 times. Russell Westbrook shot it 26 times. He's a point guard. You shouldn't shoot it 26 times and have 2 assists as a point guard.
No, not whatsoever, especially when your star player is having a hard time getting shots because the defense is focused on him. You got to help him out. And, with Russell Westbrook, look, people use the same excuse. Well, he's also the 2 guard, so you got to keep in mind he's got to be the point and the 2 guard. Well, be a little bit more of the point guard. If you want to say he's playing both, fine. We need to actually play both because still 85-90% of his game is playing two guard. They don't have a point guard whatsoever. And I'll say this: I think they've got to figure out a way to make Memphis pay for being big. Memphis is saying, "Look, we're big, we're physical, we play Twin Towers. Do something about it." And Scott Brooks, what's he doing about it? He's putting Kendrick Perkins in there, acquiescing to what Memphis wants. I think you got to figure out a way to say no. Serge, you playing the 5, KD, you playing the 4. We may struggle on the board some, but we're going to make these guys come out and guard. We're going to make them play our type of basketball. And if they do that, I think they'll be in a lot better shape.
It is funny to see how so many of these teams are sort of forcing the other team's hand. Atlanta is forcing Indiana's hand. They're saying, all right, well, you're not going to be able to play Roy Hibbert. Now, offensively, if he were having success offensively, he'd stay in the game. But right now, man, Atlanta's spreading them out, and they're saying, all right, well, we're going to shoot all these threes, and Roy Hibbert's just going to be a waste, and we're going to use him against you if he plays. So it's kind of the same thing that you're talking about there with Oklahoma City and Memphis. But I guess I'll be interested to see if Oklahoma City can bounce back and win that series. If they don't, Memphis is a good team. They were the third best team with Marc Gasol as far as record goes when he was in the action in the lineup this year, but he just was hurt a lot. So
did you see everybody's making a big deal about Westbrook's brother, what he tweeted last night, and how he tweeted, "We need a new coach," and everybody started retweeting it. It was circling around. It had made pretty big hay as far as Russell Westbrook's brother says they need a new coach. I'm thinking to myself, well, the new coach would probably tell your brother not to shoot as much, so you may not want a new coach.
That's exactly right. Somebody's got to tell him, man. Look, here's the deal, Russell. We want you to shoot the ball, but you need to be second to Kevin Durant. So if there's an opportunity for you to shoot it or him to shoot it, give it to him. Now, I have to be honest, though. Tony Allen is in Kevin Durant's business. I mean, he is up in his shorts all night long, and that's tough. That's tough to handle. And then there are times when Russell Westbrook gets hot and he switches over there and guards him. So he's a tough handle there. And Russell Westbrook, man, there are a couple times I looked up and saw him make stupid decisions. He hit a huge three in the corner, and then he throws the ball right to Tony Allen, and then he hits a big 4-point play. It's just like, bad, good, bad, and
that's
it's just
Russell.
that's it, life with him.
And I got to give Memphis this one bit of credit before we go. Look, Memphis, they're not the same team they were last year, and I got to give them credit for that. I think the addition of Beno Udrih and then Courtney Lee and Mike Miller, I think it's huge for them because they now have more dimensions on offense. Last year, it was the big boys or bust, really. They had nothing on the perimeter. Now Beno kind of brings that European spread court flavor to the otherwise bogged down Grizzlies. Courtney Lee's another defender, another shooter. Obviously, Mike Miller's another shooter. So they're more of a spread-out offensive team than they were a year ago. A little bit more like the Spurs, and they're still physical with the big. So they're a better team than they were last year. I got to give them credit for that.
You think the Spurs are in trouble with Dallas?
I said Dallas would be a problem. I predicted they'd be a problem for the Spurs, but I still am going to go with San Antonio. But I'm not surprised. Rick Carlisle can coach. Dirk, he never was an athlete, so it doesn't matter that he's old. He's the same guy. I mean, really. And then Marion, they're just tough veteran. They're not a cakewalk.
No, I'm with you. You think Miami? You're probably with me on this, but Miami, they like to get that sweep just because, for one, playing more than 4 games against Charlotte, it's kind of a waste of your time, and then you can also get a little bit more rest coming into the next series when you expect Brooklyn, Toronto to be a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you want to be rested, but at the same time, you also don't want to take a chance on a freak injury. I mean, it's LeBron, so McRoberts didn't even put a dent in him, but just something else like that could happen. That could be an ankle or a knee to Wade, or just something with LeBron. The more you play, the more you mess around, the more something might happen. So you need to put the Bobcats away. Obviously, going up 3-0, you'd break their will. They're going to have a little bit of juice coming home for their first playoff game in the last few years. So you may have to withstand an early Bobcat run, but I think they'll settle them down.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to withstand a heated exchange early on, I'm sure. But we'll see if LeBron James and the Fighting Heat can take on the Fighting Forearms to the Throat. And I wouldn't be surprised if LeBron goes 50 in this game, just to middle finger Josh McRoberts for that flagrant 2. NBA reviewed that no call or just regular foul, no big deal. And they decided that when you throw a forearm elbow into a guy's throat, you shouldn't do that. That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, they decided that. But that's a whole other topic that we can get into sometimes. And LeBron James, and I think maybe it's the whole Shaq thing, doesn't get the type of calls I think somebody of his stature should be getting. But neither did Shaq. And let's face it, he's a primitive version of Shaq in terms of just beating people up, being physical, people hacking him, and they're not calling anything because he's so big. I think LeBron could be getting more calls than what he's getting. But some people say it's because he and Wade whine a lot. I think it's because he's kind of like Shaq. People hack him, and it doesn't affect him, so they don't call it.
I like how he said something like, it's the playoffs, I'm not that worried about it. I think he earned some goodwill with some officials. Because sometimes, and I'll be honest, as a Heat fan, I still see LeBron and D-Wade griping and crying for calls, and it makes me mad sometimes. But at some points, he deserves to get a call. So, all right, let's move on real quickly. Spring football, the scrimmage red-white game is tomorrow, 1 o'clock in Fayetteville. It's open to the public. You've got Razor Fest going on tomorrow during the day. Rick Schaefer was mentioning off some of the names of the folks that they've got giving autographs and doing autograph sessions. So get up there early and go get some autographs if you're interested in that sort of thing. There's going to be inflatables and all that stuff for the kids and just a bunch of fun stuff. And then there's a game that's going to take place. We asked today's CrossFit Russellville poll question, what does Brett Bielema have to accomplish this year to make you feel better about Arkansas's future? I've seen several answers. Corey Williams said, and I quote, he needs to go to and win a bowl game. He needs 6-6, or no, he wasn't the one who said that. He said he needs to go 6-6 at least. I did see one guy, Brock Bartlett, on Twitter who said get to and win a bowl game, and then Jim Freeman said win an SEC game, #progress.
That a relative of yours?
No, he's a friend. Well, that actually is my grandpa's name, but no, that's just a friend.
Different Jim. Yeah, I think Arkansas' schedule is tough. When you predict wins and what a team's going to do, you got to say, are they going to get better as far as how they look, or are they going to have a better record? Because with a schedule this tough, Arkansas can play a lot better and still have a similar record to what they did last year. So that's something you got to keep in mind. And I'm looking at the schedule, and you've got the Southwest Classic game against A&M in Arlington. A&M at quarterback, I don't know. That defense is bad. I don't know. I'm not counting that as a win, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know what to expect going to Texas Tech. Kingsbury, sometimes he has those guys excited and ready, and other times they're throwing it 30 times, 50 times, they can't hit anything. So I just don't know what's going to happen with that game. Maybe pull off an upset. You got Georgia at home. You got Ole Miss at home. It'd be nice if you could steal one of those. And I think Ole Miss is going. I think they'll legitimately live up to more of the hype than they did last year. I knew they were overrated last year. They may actually live up to some of it this year. But I just want to see Arkansas look like what Brett Bielema wants. I want them to be able to hang their hat on something. They may go 5-7, but if they lead the SEC in rushing, Brett Bielema's philosophy is coming into play.
That's exactly what I'm going with, the stair-step method as well. I think Arkansas needs to improve. They need to show they've got to win an SEC game. You can't go 0 for the SEC again. That's one huge thing that's got to happen. It'd be nice if you play Texas Tech on September 13th. On August 30th, Arkansas is playing Auburn. Texas Tech is playing UCA. How cool would it be if UCA just went and beat Texas Tech?
Yeah.
It would put a whole lot of pressure on Arkansas if they did. But if they did, it would be really nice if Arkansas can go down there and beat Texas Tech. But Auburn, the first game of the year, man, that's brutal. You're going to find out a lot about yourself early on.
It's brutal, but I expect Arkansas to actually compete in that game. You got all offseason to look at Gus Malzahn, that offense. You don't have an opponent beforehand. It's the opening of the season. There's going to be some kinks to still work out. Remember, Auburn didn't blow Arkansas out last year. Arkansas gave Auburn a hard time. They had some big plays which helped them overcome Arkansas, but consistently, the Hogs' defense played pretty well against the eventual SEC champions. And UCA and Texas Tech, that will be an interesting one. I remember 2 years ago, UCA gave Ole Miss all they wanted. Led them in the second half at Ole Miss. So, you know what, I'm not calling for a victory, but hey, watch out for the Bears.
And, we've talked about the difficulty of Arkansas' schedule. Jason just sent me a photo. Arkansas has the number one, according to last year's winning percentage of the opponents that Arkansas is facing this year, the number one schedule in the country. Arkansas, you won 0 games in the SEC last year. Show them what they've won. The toughest schedule in the country the next year. So I'm not one who says that they're going to have to win X amount of games. They're just going to have to show some progress. You want to beat Nicholls State, Texas Tech, and Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois replacing a great quarterback. You've got to win a conference game. You got to beat UAB down there. There are some games that you've got to have, but man, this is a tough freaking schedule. Listen to the SEC games for Arkansas. Okay, you've got national runner-up, basically Auburn, the SEC champ from last year, Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia. Oh, thank you. We got Georgia instead of South Carolina. I appreciate that. Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri, who was in the SEC championship game last year. Arkansas' schedule is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And I looked at Arkansas last year. I'm thinking to myself, okay, if they had a better team, how many of these games would they have actually won? Because sometimes, in cases last year, they lost to teams that weren't very good. It's just that Arkansas wasn't good enough to take advantage of it. So I'm looking this year, okay, if Arkansas is a decent team, who on this schedule can they beat? And I'm looking at, in SEC play, A&M. I think A&M, because that defense, even if they get a lot better, they're still going to be terrible. I mean, that A&M defense was so bad last year. So I give Arkansas a puncher's chance in that. I know a lot of hype around Ole Miss. Wallace is going to be healthy. You got that at home. You played Ole Miss pretty well on the road last year. And then, Missouri, they're going to have to replace the defensive line, Michael Sam. They've got the other kid who's going to go in the first round. They got a lot of good players from last year that are leaving. Again, I'm not counting it as a victory, but just games where if the opponent doesn't play well, Arkansas can steal it. And those are the kind of games I'm looking at.
Okay, so I've got a couple other things that I want to see happen by the end of the year. I'd like to see these 3 questions at least begin to be answered. The offensive line, he's always done well, and Weldon mentioned this earlier. Developing offensive line talent with the money that they're paying Pittman to keep him from Alabama, they had better get better on the offensive line and be able to protect Brandon Allen. That's where the second improvement I think needs to happen. Brandon Allen, as a quarterback, he can't be the guy who throws 5-yard outs and they go 27 yards out of bounds. And he's got to have receivers who'll catch the ball, and I know that's part of it. But he's got to at least trust his receivers enough to throw it to them and not just in the ground or over there. He's got to be a lot more accurate, a lot better, because I know he was hurt, but he wasn't an SEC caliber quarterback last year. Matter of fact, I don't know that he was a playing caliber quarterback last year when he was because he was hurt. I have to give it to him. And then also, as a defense, you've got to see the defense overall improve. I know that there are questions. I think the D-line's going to be really good. The defensive ends especially going to be really good, although the tackles may be a little thin. You've got to improve as a defense. The good thing about that, though, is that you can't get much worse. So, like you talked about before the show, and Maddie, don't go get beat 52-0 by anybody. Try your best to keep these games at least respectable. I'm not one that is a moral victory kind of person, but I will take 34-14, like Maddie said, over 52-0 any time, any place. So I want to see the defense improve among those other things.
Yeah, and you mentioned his weapons, and one weapon that we hope that he has this fall is JoJo Robinson. Want to see his situation get cleared up. He was arrested for armed robbery. Conflicting reports. I don't know what's clear yet, but his father says charges have dropped. We're hearing that they're not, so we'll get more information on that. He's expected to be at the game tomorrow, so hopefully some clarity, because he's one of those guys in this freshman class, Mark, that you think can come in and play right away.
Yeah, as far as what we heard yesterday, I think it was Robbie Niswanger who called the police station there, and they said that there's a hearing coming up. The charges weren't dropped, but he was in the car with somebody, a car that was used in this type of thing. It wasn't like he went and actually robbed somebody himself, but it wasn't at this moment. It was a car that was previously used in a robbery. So JoJo Robinson hanging with the wrong folks. That's just the bottom line. And he is coming in, apparently, heard yesterday mentioned that he is coming in for the spring game. So we'll see if there's a little bit more information to that. I'm hoping that he doesn't have any more issues. And it's kind of unfortunate that he's going to have this stuff hanging over his head before he even gets to campus. And I'm sure that he's going to have some folks in his ear this Saturday saying, dude, you better get your crap together.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure Coach Bielema will want to have a word. He's like, okay, JoJo, you're coming up. We're going to have a word after the game. Or if you come up early, we're going to have a word before the game just to make sure we're all squared away. But overall, Mark, I think it's going to be a fun day. The fans are going to get to come out and get to see. I don't expect a huge crowd because fans are still a little bit sore from last year. They want a little bit more before they get excited. So I'm not calling for 50, 60,000 crowd, but I still think it'll be a nice crowd, be fun. You'll see some points scored. Obviously, it's all scripted, so it'll be scripted to throw touchdowns and make big plays, and I'll enjoy watching it.
Wes Domery says preferably a 500 season. These guys have some high hopes for this season. Looking at this schedule, I'm just hoping they can win it. It's like
Jim
what's
Moore.
his face? I just want to win a game.
Playoffs.
I just hope we can win a game. That's kind of where I am. Just win a stinking game in the SEC, and I'll be all right. All right. Speaking of SEC, we got baseball tonight. Hogs and Auburn. Haven't won a series against Auburn since 2009. I saw Jason tweet.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then they've got a game tonight, and then to avoid Sunday's apparent inclement weather that's supposed to be coming, they're going to play a doubleheader on Saturday starting at 4:05. Apparently, they're wanting to end this game at midnight because you know how baseball is. These games take forever, so they're going to play a doubleheader on Saturday.
Yeah, to avoid the inclement weather. Good. I like that the SEC has this policy. Therefore, you want to get all the games in. But Arkansas trying to cruise a little bit now. You take care of Northwestern State. You take care of Vanderbilt last weekend. The Auburn team, they're salty. I mean, they're flirting in that top 25 neighborhood, so you'll have a chance to knock them off and maybe get on a little bit of a roll.
I hope so. The Razorback baseball team wants to get above 500, keep that streak of regional appearances alive, go to the NCAA tournament. Man, this baseball season's gone by pretty quickly.
You normally don't say that.
No, I hate baseball. And to be honest with you, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to any baseball, so we'll see how the Razorback baseball team does this weekend. I'll find out with you on Monday morning. I don't care, really. I'll follow it on Twitter. We'll see. We've got plenty of stuff on Monday that we'll hit. Hopefully, the Miami Heat are up 3 games in that series, and plenty others.
I'll say real quick, the game tonight's on TV, CST, Arkansas, Auburn.
Awesome. So if you can find that channel, good luck. We shall see. You're going to be calling every radio. You know you are. You're going to be calling every radio station in the state. What channel's the game on? How do I get to my rabbit ears? What do I have to turn it to? Oh, Lordy. All right. Well, that's all the time we've got for today. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark. Saying so long. We'll be back at 11 o'clock on Monday.